The empty nail stares back at me from the wall, a solitary accusation in the afternoon light. My fingers brush against it, trembling slightly as they find the small hole where Mom's portrait hung for nearly a decade. Just yesterday, her smile brightened the spot the photograph from her last Christmas, wrapped in a simple wooden frame. The sunlight streams through gauzy curtains she sewed herself, back when I was 7 and wanted a princess room. Each careful stitch remains perfectly straight, even after all these years. My hand drifts to the gold locket at my throat, its familiar weight anchoring me as memories flood back. I was 9 when she gave it to me, her hospital room quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Her fingers, so thin by then, fastened the clasp around my neck. "So I'll always be with you, sweetheart." Her voice was barely a whisper, but her eyes held mine with fierce intensity. I didn't understand then that it would be the last gift she'd ever give me. 2 years passed in a fog of television dinners and awkward silence before Dad brought Denise home. She wore scrubs and a gentle smile, and Dad's hand rested on her lower back as he made the introduction. "Claire, this is someone special I'd like you to meet." I remember nodding politely, noting how Denise's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. But I was 11 then, too young to recognize the determination in her gaze as she surveyed our living room. Too naive to see what was coming. The changes started slowly. A family photo disappeared here, a treasured recipe vanished there. Mom's garden transformed one weekend, while I was at a sleepover. Her cherished roses replaced with geometric beds of impatiens and marigolds. Each loss felt like a paper cut, small but stinging. I started keeping track in a journal hidden beneath my mattress, documenting every erased trace of my mother. Page after page filled with entries. The 15th of January. Mom's antique cookie jar, missing from kitchen counter. The 3rd of February. Living room curtains replaced. The 20th of March. Dad stopped saying Laura when talking about Mom. Sometimes I catch Megan watching me from her bedroom window next door. She's witnessed every stage of this slow excavation, this careful removal of all things Laura Morgan. Sometimes she opens her mouth like she wants to say something, but what is there to say? We both know what's happening. Try to understand Denise. Dad always says when I bring it up, his voice tired and distant. She just wants to be part of this family. But being part of our family shouldn't mean erasing the person who came before. Every night, I open the locket before bed, touching the tiny photograph inside. Mom beams up at me, forever young and healthy in that frozen moment. Sometimes I whisper to her, telling her about my day, about the latest thing that's vanished. Sometimes I just cry. I've learned to read Denise's face when I wear the locket prominently. The way her jaw tightens, how her eyes narrow slightly before she changes the subject. It's become our silent battle, me touching the gold pendant, her pretending not to notice. Last week at dinner, she crossed a line I didn't even know existed. We were celebrating Dad's promotion, the 3 of us picking at overcooked chicken, when she reached across the table and patted my hand. "You know, Claire," she said, voice dripping with artificial sweetness, "I'm your real mom now." The words hung in the air like poison. Dad suddenly became very interested in his peas. I sat there, fork suspended, as rage and grief warred in my chest. But I didn't cry. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. Now I stand before my mirror, the afternoon sun painting everything in shades of gold. My reflection stares back, jaw set in a way that reminds me of old photographs. Mom had the same expression when she stood her ground. My fingers find the locket again, its metal warm from resting against my skin. I won't forget her. I whisper to my reflection, to the empty nail on the wall, to the ghost of the woman who gave me life. I won't let you disappear. The house creaks around me, settling into late afternoon silence. Somewhere downstairs, Denise is probably rearranging another cabinet, replacing another memory. But she can't touch this one. She can't erase what I hold in my heart, what I wear around my neck, what I see every time I look in the mirror. My mother's daughter looks back at me, chin lifted in quiet defiance. And I know with a certainty that fills my chest like sunlight that some things cannot be replaced, cannot be removed, cannot be forgotten. no matter how many photographs disappear from these walls. Later that week, I find myself in a different kind of light, not the soft glow of memory, but the warm flicker of celebration. I've changed clothes, painted on a smile, and stepped into a world that is kept moving, with or without me. Candlelight flickers across crystal wine glasses, casting amber shadows on white tablecloths. The restaurant hums with celebration, Denise's 45th birthday party in full swing. Extended family clusters around the long table, forks clinking against china, laughter punctuating conversations. My father beams from his seat beside Denise, his hand resting on her shoulder as she unwraps another gift. I adjust the gold locket so it lies perfectly centered against my blouse. The metal catches the light, drawing attention just as I'd intended. Across the table, Aunt Ruth pauses mid-bite, her eyes fixed on the pendant. "What a beautiful piece, Claire," she says, dabbing her lips with her napkin. I don't believe I've seen it before. The restaurant noise fades to background static. Every head turns toward me, conversation suspended. I run my thumb across the locket's smooth surface, the way I have 1,000 times before. It was my mom's. My voice carries clearly across the white tablecloth, past the centerpiece of pink roses Denise selected. She gave it to me before she passed. The silence stretches. Someone's fork scrapes against china. Beside me, my father shifts in his chair, his breath catching slightly. I keep my eyes on Ruth, avoiding Denise's face. The sound of a wine glass being set down too firmly breaks the moment. "She may have birthed you," Denise says, each word precise and measured. "But I raised you longer. I'm your mom now." Forks freeze halfway to the mouths. My cousin Tommy's eyes widen as he glances between us. Even Ruth looks away, suddenly fascinated by the pattern on her plate. The air turns thick, heavy with unspoken words. My hands don't shake as I fold my napkin the proper way, corners aligned perfectly. Mom taught me that, actually. The fabric makes a soft whisper as I place it beside my half-finished salmon. If being a mom means erasing the one who came before, I say, my voice steady despite the thunder of my heartbeat, then yeah, you've done a great job. Claire. My father's voice comes out strangled. That was too much. Denise's family exchanges glances across the table. Her sister Catherine mutters something to her husband. Uncle Jim suddenly develops an intense interest in the ceiling's crown molding. By the time we leave, the party's warmth has curdled into discomfort. The drive home stretches endless, silence filling the car like fog. Rain starts falling, fat drops racing down my window. Dad's knuckles shine white against the steering wheel. In the passenger seat, Denise sits rigid, staring straight ahead through the windshield. The wipers mark time with mechanical precision. Swish. Pause, swish, pause. I trace the paths of raindrops down my window, each one like the tears I refuse to shed. We pass streetlights that blur into streaks of gold, like the ones that lined the road the night Mom died. My fingers find the locket again. By the time we get home and step inside, the atmosphere is too heated. Dad corners me in the hallway as soon as we're home, his face flushed. "You will apologize to Denise." "I won't apologize for remembering my mother." The words come out quiet but firm. His expression cracks just slightly. I see the flicker of something: guilt, grief, both. "Do you even remember her anymore, Dad?" He turns away, but not before I catch his face crumpling. His footsteps echo down the hall, each one landing like an accusation. 3 days later, I know something's wrong before I even open my bedroom door. The air feels different, somehow disturbed. Inside, dresser drawers sit slightly ajar, my clothes rumpled in ways I never leave them. The velvet pouch that usually holds my locket lies empty on my desk, a dark mouth gaping open. My hands curl into fists, then slowly release. I don't cry, I don't scream, I don't storm through the house demanding answers. Instead, I sit on my bed, open my journal, and begin to write. Each word flows from my pen with perfect clarity, mapping out exactly what comes next. Sometimes the quietest response carries the most weight. The pouch remains on my desk, a reminder. Its emptiness speaks volumes about trust, about boundaries, about the desperation that drives someone to take what isn't theirs. But more than that, it speaks about strength, the kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. I run my fingers over the velvet's soft surface, remembering the weight of the locket that once nestled inside. Mom's voice whispers in my memory. Sometimes, sweetheart, the strongest thing you can do is stay steady when the world tries to shake you. So I stay steady, and I plan. The first thing to do is to find a job and become financially independent. Then I remember, the library needs extra help, so I go for the interview on Monday morning. After I passed the interview, I started working at the library. My first paycheck feels crisp between my fingers. $234. Not much, but it's mine. I tuck it carefully into my wallet, breathing in the familiar scent of old books that permeates the library's circulation desk. Good work this week, Claire, Mrs. Peterson says, adjusting her reading glasses. You're catching on fast. I nod, thinking back to my interview 3 weeks ago. I need to earn my own money, I'd told her, voice steady despite the desperation churning inside. She hadn't asked why, just studied my face for a long moment before stamping hired across my application. After my shift was done, I went to the bank to deposit money. The bank teller smiles when I deposit most of the check, leaving just enough for bus fare and lunch money. My new account balance flashes on the screen, $12.48. By my calculations, in 4 months I'll have enough. I just have to be patient. During lunch breaks, I scroll through local business listings on the ancient library computer. Silversmiths, jewelry makers, metalworkers. Most results lead nowhere. Retired, moved away, switched to mass production. But then a small ad catches my eye, tucked in the corner of last week's newspaper. Harold Holloway, fine jewelry repair. By appointment only. The name sparks something. Later that evening, after I returned home, I rifle through Mom's old address book, still hidden in my desk drawer at home. There, in her flowing handwriting, Harold Holloway, excellent work on Grandma's brooch. I decided to find the address tomorrow after work. After the work was done, I headed to find the Holloway workshop. His workshop sits behind a small white house on Cedar Street, weathered but well-maintained. My knuckles barely graze the door when it swings open. Mr. Holloway peers at me through thick glasses, his white hair wild around his ears. You're Laura Morgan's girl. The words stop me cold. How did you? Those eyes. He taps his own glasses. Clear as day. Come in, come in. Inside smells of metal and wood polish. Tools line the walls in precise rows, each hanging from its own brass hook. A jeweler's lamp throws warm light across his workbench. Your mother brought me her grandmother's brooch 15 years ago, he says, settling onto a worn stool. Needed the clasp repaired. We got to talking about her garden. She gave me tomato plants that spring, best I ever grew. My throat tightens. I reach into my bag, fingers finding the small velvet pouch. I have something of hers. I was hoping. Mom's gold ring catches the lamplight as I unwrap it. Simple, elegant. Her first piece of real jewelry, bought with babysitting money when she was 16. Can you make something from this? Mr. Holloway lifts the ring with reverent hands, examining it under his lamp. What did you have in mind? A locket. My voice comes out stronger than I expect. Like the one she gave me, but different, special. He nods slowly, reaching for a sheet of paper. His weathered hands sketch quick, sure lines. The gold can be melted down, reshaped. We could do something like this. See how the front panel curves here? Room for engraving inside. I lean closer, watching the design take shape. How long would it take? For Laura's daughter? His eyes crinkle. I'll make the time. Over the next weeks, I visit during my lunch breaks, watching him work. The careful melting of the gold, the precise measurements, the tiny hinges taking shape under his skilled hands. He tells me stories about Mom while he works. Her laugh, her gardening advice, the way she always brought him coffee when she visited. Each visit feels like a quiet stitching together of things once torn. As the locket slowly takes form again, so does something inside me, a readiness I didn't know I was waiting for. Piece by piece, memory by memory, the past begins to feel less like something I'm running from, and more like something I can carry forward. With time passing, Mom's memorial gathering has finally arrived. The morning of the memorial gathering dawns clear and cool. I arrange white chairs in the library courtyard, my hands trembling slightly as I tie ribbons around bouquets of stargazer lilies, Mom's favorite. Old photographs line a small table near the podium, each one rescued from boxes in the attic. People begin arriving early. Mrs. Chen from next door, dabbing her eyes already. Mom's old teaching colleagues carrying more flowers. Even ancient Mr. Peterson from the hardware store, leaning on his cane. She always asked about my Agnes, he tells me, patting my hand. She sent me a card every year on our anniversary after Agnes passed. I greet each person, collecting their stories like precious gems. She taught me to make her sugar cookies. Remember that Halloween when dressed as Carmen Miranda? She helped me plant my first rosebush. A movement at the back of the courtyard catches my eye. Denise slips into a chair in the last row, hands clenched tightly in her lap. Dad isn't with her. Something inside me unclenches, just a little. I must be nervous since I'm about to give a speech about my mom. The podium feels solid under my fingers as I step up. Sunlight warms my hair, and for a moment I imagine Mom standing beside me, squeezing my hand like she used to before my school presentations. Thank you all for coming, I began, opening her journal. I'd like to share something Mom wrote about the day she tried to teach me to bake. Laughter ripples through the crowd as I read about the great chocolate chip disaster of 2012. Smoke alarms blaring, dog barking, Mom and I covered in flour as we fanned the kitchen with dish towels. Her words paint the scene so clearly I can almost smell the burnt cookies. Then I turn to her final entry, written in shakier handwriting, but still undeniably her. The courtyard grows silent as I read about her hopes for my future, her faith in my strength, her endless love. My voice stays steady, though tears blur the words. Finally, I lift the small velvet box from beside the podium. Mom gave me a locket before she died to keep her close. Someone. My eyes find Denise briefly. Someone took that from me, but they couldn't take her love. The new locket gleams in the light as I lift it from the box. This was made from her first gold ring, melted down and reformed. The inscription reads, "For the woman who loved me first." I fasten it around my neck, feeling its weight settle against my skin. Someone's camera clicks softly. In the front row, Dad wipes his eyes openly for the first time since the funeral. When did he arrive? Ruth, Denise's mother, rests one hand on Denise's shoulder as they both stare at the ground. My eyes meet Denise's across the courtyard. No triumph fills me, no satisfaction in her obvious discomfort. Just quiet acknowledgement of the pain we've both carried, and maybe the first glimpse of a path forward. The breeze lifts Mom's favorite lilies, carrying their sweet scent across the courtyard. Somewhere, a wind chime rings softly. In this moment, surrounded by those who loved her, Mom feels closer than ever, not because of any locket, but because her love lives on in all of us. I touch the warm metal on my throat and smile. The memorial was held successfully, so I entered the house full of joy and feeling comfortable. The front door clicks shut behind me, my footsteps echoing in the silence of our empty foyer. The memorial gathering lingers in my bones like the last notes of a favorite song. I slip off my shoes, noticing Dad's mud-caked work boots, beside Denise's polished loafers, the sight so familiar it barely registers anymore. But something feels different. The air holds a strange weight, as if the house itself has shifted on its foundation. My gaze drifts to the hallway wall where Mom's photograph has reappeared after 6 years of exile. Her smile catches the late afternoon light, and for a moment I forget how to breathe. A soft knock breaks the spell. Dad stands in my doorway, shoulders curved inward like parentheses around a secret. His hands fidget with something I can't quite see. Claire. His voice carries the same heaviness as the air. I should have given this to you long ago. The yellowed envelope in his hands trembles slightly. Even from here, I recognize Mom's flowing handwriting, the way her Y's always curved like quarter moons, how she dotted her I's with tiny circles instead of points. Your mom wrote this. Dad swallows hard. She told me to give it to you when it felt right. I step closer, reading the words on the envelope. For Claire, when the world feels too heavy. The paper crinkles beneath my shaking fingers as I break the seal. Dad backs away, pulling my bedroom door closed with a whispered click. I sink onto my childhood bed, the same spot where Mom used to read me stories about brave princesses who saved themselves. The letter unfolds like a flower opening to morning sun. Mom's handwriting flows across the page in familiar curves, and without meaning to, I begin reading aloud. My dearest Claire, if you're reading this, the world has grown too heavy for your shoulders alone. I wish I could lift that weight myself, but since I can't, these words will have to do. First, my brave girl, please don't let missing me turn you cold or bitter. I've watched you build walls around your heart since the doctors gave us the news, each brick mortared with fear of more loss. But walls that keep out pain also keep out love. And you deserve so much love, sweetheart. Your father will hurt in ways you may never fully see. The world expects men to move forward without looking back, but that doesn't mean they forget. Every time he looks at you, he sees my eyes, my smile, the 1,000 little ways you mirror who I was. Sometimes that gift feels like a curse to him, I think. And if that woman isn't Meath one who tries to mother you after I'm gone, it doesn't mean she's against you. It doesn't mean she's trying to erase me. Sometimes people push too hard because they're afraid of not being enough. Sound familiar, my little fighter? My vision blurs as tears splash onto the paper. I brush them away quickly, afraid they'll smear the precious words. Don't let grief erase the beautiful parts of your life, Claire. Don't let it steal your laughter or your ability to love freely. You can hold my memory in your heart without using it as a shield against the world. I will always love you. That's the thing about a mother's love, it doesn't end. Not with distance, not with time, not even with death. It lives in every cell of your body, every breath you take, every dream you dream. You are my greatest gift to the world, Claire Elizabeth Morgan. Live like you know that truth down to your bones. All my love. Mom. The sobs come then, harder than they have in years. I clutch the letter to my chest as if I could press the words directly into my heart. The weight of anger, me constant companion for so long, begins to lift from my shoulders like morning fog burning away in sunlight. As I open the door, I catch a glimpse of Dad sitting alone at the kitchen table, his coffee going cold beside him. For the first time, I see him not as the man who let Denise replace Mom's recipes and rearrange her garden, but as someone carrying a double burden of grief, missing his wife, while watching his daughter guard her memory like a soldier at a tomb. My bare feet make no sound on the hardwood floor as I approach. My hand finds his shoulder and he yells at the touch. She loved you so much, Dad. His fingers cover mine, rough and warm and trembling. We stay like that for a long moment, the evening light painting everything in shades of gold, while somewhere above us, Mom's photograph keeps its quiet vigil on the wall where it belongs. Wrapped in this comfortable feeling, another week has passed, and I am ready to go to school. Sunlight spills across my desk like liquid gold, catching on something that wasn't there when I left for school this morning. My backpack slips from my shoulder, landing with a soft thud on the carpet as I step closer. A wooden box, small enough to fit in my palm, sits precisely centered on my chemistry textbook. The wood gleams with age and care, its surface traced with delicate scrollwork that reminds me of the jewelry box Mom kept on her dresser. My fingers hover over the lid. The house holds its breath around me, empty and watchful. Dad's at work until 6. Denise's afternoon shift at the hospital started an hour ago. I lift the lid. The familiar glint of gold nestles against dark velvet. My mother's locket coiled carefully in the center of the box. My heart stutters, then races. Beneath it, a folded scrap of paper in Denise's neat handwriting. I didn't know it meant that much. 7 words. No flowery apology, No long explanation, just acknowledgement. Both lockets rest in my palms now. The original from Mom, warm with memories, and the new one Mr. Holloway crafted from her ring. Different weights, different stories. The afternoon light catches them both, old gold and new speaking to each other in metallic whispers. Understanding washes over me like a slow tide. Denise could have mailed this, left it with Dad to give me, buried it in a drawer where I might never look. Instead, she placed it here herself, retreating without ceremony. No demand for forgiveness, no expectation of gratitude, just a quiet return of something precious. My fingers work quickly, fastening first one chain, then the other. The lockets settle against each other, a soft chime as they touch. The next morning arrives with the scent of coffee and cinnamon, drawing me to the kitchen before I can second-guess myself. Both lockets rest against my collarbone, visible above my t-shirt collar. Denise stands at the counter, coffee pot suspended mid-pour as she notices them. The morning silence thickens like honey. "Thank you," I say, the words falling into the space between us. She nods once, resuming her pour with steady hands. The coffee streams into her faded American Cancer Society mug, the one she uses for early shifts. Steam curls upward, carrying the scent of something unspoken. Days fold into weeks. Small changes ripple through our house like pebbles dropped in still water. During dinner on time, Denise asks about the book I'm reading. Her eyebrows lift when I mention it was one of Mom's favorites. What else did she like to read? The question hangs there, gentle and unexpected. Dad's fork pauses halfway to his mouth. Mystery novels, I say slowly. English ones especially. She had every Agatha Christie book ever published. Denise nods, taking a sip of water. I've never read any Christie. Where would you suggest starting? The conversation unfolds like a flower opening to sunrise. Dad's shoulders relax as he watches us, hope brightening his tired eyes. Later that week, I helped Denise organize her work schedule, showing her the color-coding system Mom taught me for keeping track of appointments. She studies my neat rows of highlighter marks. "This is brilliant," she says, "so much clearer than my mess of post-it notes." We fall into an easy rhythm after that small exchanges, shared moments that ask for nothing but presence. The porch swing creaks softly beneath us one Saturday afternoon, autumn leaves skittering across the front yard. Denise wraps her hands around a mug of tea, staring into the distance. "I thought I had to replace her to belong here," she says finally. The words float away on the October breeze. "I was afraid you'd never see his family otherwise." My fingers brush against both lockets. "You don't have to be my mother to matter to me." The tension drains from her shoulders, leaving something softer in its wake. She reaches down beside the swing, pulling out a worn photo album I've never seen before. "I want to show you something." She goes back to the house and comes after a while with an album. The pages smell of old paper and forgotten summers. A young girl with Denise's eyes grins gap-toothed at the camera. Birthday parties with increasingly empty chairs. School pictures where her smile grows more practiced, less real. "My mother left when I was 12, Denise says quietly. "Just walked out one day. No note, no explanation. My dad never even filed a missing persons report. Just told everyone she'd gone to live with her sister in Florida." Her fingers trace the edge of a Christmas photo. There was no sister in Florida. Understanding clicks into place like a key turning in a lock. Every disappeared photograph, every replaced recipe, every transformed garden bed, all of it flowing from that 12-year-old girl's broken trust. I stood before my mirror that night, holding both lockets in my palm. The original catches lamplight the way it always has, familiar as my own heartbeat. The new one gleams with different memories, Mr. Holloway's careful work, the memorial gathering, Denise's returned treasure. My reflection shows me what Mom would see. Her daughter's face, her stubborn chin, but something new in the eyes. Something that knows love doesn't divide like fractions, doesn't require subtraction to make room for addition. I fasten both chains around my neck, watching them settle together against my skin. Not a betrayal, but a bridge. Not replacement, but expansion. They chime softly as I move, singing harmony instead of discord. In time, that harmony becomes a habita, quiet part of my mornings, woven into the rhythm of days that keep unfolding. The morning light streams through my apartment windows, casting golden patterns across 2 lockets laid out on my dresser. 7 years of morning rituals, and still my fingers trace their shapes with reverence. One inscribed, "For the woman who loved me first." The other simply, "Mother catching the sun like promises kept." My wedding dress hangs nearby, its white fabric glowing. Between the dress and mirror stands an antique hat box stuffed with holiday cards from Dad and Denise, their careful signatures and evolution markers of our healing. Last Christmas's card shows them on their porch, Dad's arm around Denise's shoulder, both smiling directly at the camera. No more awkward poses, stiff expressions. A knock at the door breaks my reverie. 5 minutes until hair and makeup. Sarah, my wedding daughter, calls through the wood. "Coming," I answer, but my eyes linger on the empty chair I'd insisted on placing in the front row yesterday. White Lily's mom's favorites already drape its wooden curves, surrounding a silver-framed photograph. The image captures her mid-laugh at some long-ago summer picnic, back when her hair still brushed her shoulders and her eyes crinkled at the corners exactly like mine do now. The bridal suite buzzes with last-minute preparations. My hand stays steady as the makeup artist works, muscle memory from years of keeping composure. Through the window, I watch early guests finding their seats in the garden. A few pause at Mom's chair, touching the lilies, or leaning close to study her photograph. "Claire?" Dad's voice cracks slightly as he steps into the room. His bow tie sits slightly crooked. Mom always used to straighten it for him. He stops short, breath catching audibly. "You look just like her." The words hover between us, delicate as soap bubbles. I stand, careful of the dress's train. "She's here with us." His eyes shine as he nods, no longer trying to hide his tears the way he once did. Progress comes in small moments like these. A soft tap at the door reveals Denise, already dressed in her pale gold mother of the bride dress. She hangs back slightly, uncertain despite our years of careful rebuilding. "Denise?" My voice stays gentle. "Would you help me with my veil?" Her eyes widen slightly. This wasn't part of our rehearsed schedule. But her hands are sure and gentle as she lifts the tulle, arranging it with the same precision she once used to bandage wounds during her nursing days. Our eyes meet in the mirror, years of unspoken history passing between us. Sarah pokes her head in, clipboard clutched to her chest. 2 minutes, everyone. "Claire, I have your final change to the announcement." I'd made the decision last night, lying awake and thinking of Mom's letter, of forgiveness, of the way love multiplies rather than divides. The words I'd written still sit in Sarah's clipboard, waiting to reshape our careful piece into something stronger. The garden glows with late afternoon light as the string quartet begins to play. Through the gauzy curtain of my veil, I watch Denise take her seat in the front row. She smooths her dress, squares her shoulders, small gestures I've come to recognize as her way of preparing for emotional moments. The announcer's voice rings clear across the gathered guests. "The bride, Claire Morgan, accompanied today by the mother of the bride." Denise's hand flies to her throat. Even from here, I can see the shock ripple across her face as she realizes what I've done. Not a replacement, not erased. Inclusion. She turns slightly, gaze moving from me to the lily-covered chair beside her, understanding blooming across her features. Both mothers, both honored, both real. Dad squeezes my arm gently as we begin our walk. Both lockets rest against my collarbone, their familiar weight grounding me with each step. The old and new, intertwined like the complicated strands of family we've woven together. Later, during the reception, I watched Dad and Denise swaying together on the dance floor. His hand rests at the small of her back the same way it did the day he first introduced us, though everything else has changed. My fingers find both lockets again. an unconscious gesture that no longer holds any bitterness. Mom's letter was right. Love doesn't divide like mathematics. It grows, transforms, creates space for new chapters while honoring the ones already written. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't holding on or letting go but learning to do both at once. The setting sun paints everything in shades of gold, much like that afternoon 7 years ago when I stood before an empty nail on my bedroom wall. But now, instead of absence, I'm surrounded by presence. Mom's memory, Dad's joy, Denise's acceptance, my new beginning. All of it is real. All of it is true. All of it is a family.